Okay, so let's get started. Thanks for coming to our webinar about version 2 of PCMT. And during today's event, we're going to touch on a little bit about what have been the priorities in version 2 for helping make sure we add features that support country needs in product catalogs. Then Josh is going to give us a bit of a demo. We're going to have some informal updates from different countries that are doing national product catalog work and save most of our time for Q&A and discussion today. So with that, we will dive right in. A quick reminder of what was PCMT, what problem are we trying to solve? So you're probably familiar as we think of country health supply chains that so many different systems involved have different ID numbers for the same medicines or products. And that makes it really hard to connect up data and have data that can be shared between systems or even interoperable data to put a whole picture together about consumption or how much medicine got to patients or wastage rates or do quantification and ordering. Just when all the different systems have products handled differently, that's really hard. So the idea of this work, the product catalog management tool, has been that it helps create national product catalogs and even global product catalogs where identifiers like GS1 identifiers can map and connect all those different local identifiers in one system so that you really can connect up, harmonize, start to use standard identifiers when you can, and have a connection to all the other identifiers used. This is especially good for supporting GS1. Many of you on the call are familiar. So a quick reminder, GS1 is a global standard system for barcoding and for quantifying. It includes, everything from the sort of the manufacturer to the pallets and cases and items of medicines, and ways to identify them that are consistent and tied back to what the manufacturer puts into data and those barcodes the manufacturer puts on the packaging. And PCMT is also important in an OpenHIE type ecosystem where it can act as a product catalog or a product registry so that you have one set of master data for products that connects other systems in your health open HIE world or in your eHealth architecture. And PCMT is an open source tool. It's actually a set of add-ons for an existing open source tool called Akinio, which is a great tool for making it really easy to manage product data. So before I pass it over to Josh to talk about version 2 and what our priorities have been, and then show a demo of PCMT and some of the new features in version 2, I just wanted to pause and let people know in the chat. You can ask questions at any point. Please put them in the chat. We might stop between sections and take one or two questions, and then any others we don't get to, we'll save to the big Q&A time at the end. And so maybe I will stop here and ask Josh, are there any questions in the chat so far? Or do you want to dive right into version 2 of PCMT?
It looks like so far we don't have any chat items.
Okay, great. So Josh, we'll let you tell us about version 2 here.
All right. Okay, so if you could go forward one slide. There we go. So back in December 2019, we held a workshop for the release of version 1. And I think a lot of folks that were on this webinar were at that workshop. And then a few months later, we sent out a roadmap survey to inform version 2. And really from that survey, your responses shaped what we've been working on these past few months. And if we were to categorize all of those responses into these three themes, we basically heard these three pieces. And the first one that we heard is really make it possible to get lots of data in quickly. And what we saw from all of the varied responses in this theme was basically a more capable user permission system is the first big step to better supporting all of the different people that are in your organization to achieve safe data entry, review, and cleanup, and have all of those different roles while you're starting your national product catalog adoption. So this is really a first building block for countries to involve many different people from many different organizations in getting product data into the national product catalog. And that's just getting it in there safely. And that's where then the real work is going to begin, which is making sense of all of that data that you've got in there. And we're going to look at a demo just after this. So you're going to see little bits and pieces of how this works. So look for that when we look at the demo. The next big theme that we really saw was help your people clean and enrich that data. And especially in this theme, we heard a lot of little pieces, like, so take care of the small things that really trip people up. For example, ID generation, or pieces that can help improve data quality when someone enters it. So like quality checking as you're entering in different attributes. And also indicators that can find out where in all of the different data that you've entered, you still have spots that need improvement. And then the last theme that we heard is really make sure that the system supports the basics of GS1 so that country national product catalog projects that are just getting started have a path from where they are today towards where they think they want to be in the future in a more holistic adoption of GS1. So we have, if you've attended the first version 1 webinar or just the workshop that we held in December, you know that we've really focused version 1 on that. Version 2, we have a lot of those features already in there, but we improved a little, some of the pieces, but we didn't focus a whole lot on this piece. We really wanted to, what we really heard was that make sure that when a country is starting, that we have all the basic building blocks so that they're going in that direction. And we do have a roadmap narrative that we're going to be publishing up on the wiki, and you can read our summary of what we found in more detail. But with that, I think we're ready to get started with the demo. And let's see. I think we're ready to start the demo. Let's see. So I'm going to try to share this video. And it's a pre-recorded video. It's just under 16 minutes long. And hopefully everything comes through okay. Click this. All right. And then here we go. Welcome. My name is Josh Zamor, and this is a demo of PCMT version 2. PCMT is an extension to the open source Akeneo Community Edition, and so you'll see Akeneo here on the screen. The PCMT modules are loaded behind the scenes and come with the PCMT distro. So with that, we're going to get started and log in as admin. Upon logging in, we're brought immediately to the activity dashboard. And you can see this dashboard here. You get to it through the activity menu on the left and go to dashboard. And this is the main dashboard that shows us everything that's happening in the system at a very high level. So we have some indicators of the completeness of our products over various channels and locales, such as this. We also have all of the last operations that have been happening within the system, as well as a snapshot of the drafts that need review in the system. We also have another dashboard over here under activity called Catalog Volume Monitoring, where we can get a sense of how big our product catalog is, how many products we have in it. Right now we have over 1,200, how many different channels, different locales we have activated, including different families. And you can use families for structuring products in different ways. For example, a product for pharmaceuticals is going to have different attributes than a product for medical devices, for example. You can also see that we have over 300 different types of attributes that are in here. And again, not every product is going to have 300 attributes. but we have 300 different types here that we split into different families. We have over 400 categories here, as well as 8 different category trees or different category systems. So this gives you a sense of how many products are in the system. Our process tracker gives us a sense of all of the different operations that have been happening in the system. And our draft screen, which we'll talk about more later, will show us any drafts. And right now we don't have any drafts that we're working on. So with that, let's go look at the products that we have in our system. And let's get a sense of how we can structure products differently. So if I were to look up beads, I would come up with color-coded plastic beads. And if I click into this product, I'm going to find that this product has a number of different attributes, and that this product is also structured in this particular way with a source supplier. And we'll click on this source supplier. And underneath this source supplier, we have one trade item defined. And if we were to click in this, then we all of a sudden have a lot more different attributes. Instead of a dozen or so, we perhaps have over 100 attributes in here, split into all these different attribute groups. Well, that's great. So that's one type of product, color-coded plastic beads. It's a family planning product. But as I mentioned earlier, we can structure our products differently. So now if we go look for gloves, we can bring up these surgical gloves here, and we'll notice that for this generic product, we have a fairly similar sort of attributes, but we have different attributes in here, and we can configure that. We also have a different structure. So instead of going to a source supplier, we go straight to a pack size, and we can click on this one pack size. And again, we have more attributes, but we can have a different number of attributes and different types of attributes than our color-coded plastic beads. So PCMT gives us a way to sort our products and define our products in different ways. And we just saw that example with color-coded plastic beads and gloves. And let's see how PCMT gives us the ability to sort our products into different categories. So here, let's get rid of gloves. And let's say we wanted to find our color-coded plastic beads again. Now, we could type it in as we just did before and it would find it for us. Or we could scroll through this list and try to find it that way, but there's many different pages. Another way to find our products is to use the category system. And in our category system, we can see all the different categories by clicking on category over here under our left-hand filters. And the first thing that we see is that we have a main catalog system. And under this main catalog system, we have a number of different categories. Right now, we're looking at products to trade items. But we also have a number of different catalog systems, such as ATC, COVID, GFP van, etc. We have a number of different systems in here. Each one has its own set of categories. So if we went to GFP van and we want to find our color-coded plastic beads, we could go to reproductive health, we could go to fertility awareness, and we have the standard days method in here. And here's our color-coded plastic beads. So this product, color-coded plastic beads, is categorized into this category, standard days method, under fertility awareness, under reproductive health, in the GFP van category system. But this product can be categorized into multiple different systems as well as multiple different categories. So if we changed our system and instead we were interested in looking at product sourcing, we could go to our product sourcing category. And if we want to find color-coded plastic beads from a specific manufacturer, then I can click on manufacturers, and I happen to know that this is supplied or made by Cycle Technologies. So I click on Cycle Technologies, and there's our color-coded plastic beads again. Now let's actually click into this product and see how this product is categorized into different systems. So under categories on the left, for this product, in the main catalog, it's under products to trade items. In the GFP van system, we can see that it's under fertility awareness, standard days method, color-coded plastic beads. And in product sourcing, we'll see that it's under the supplier GHSC PSM, and under our manufacturers, it is under Cycle Technologies. Now, let's make a change to this product. In order to do that, I'm going to log out of the administrator account, and I'm going to log back in under a more restrictive user. So let's log in as family planning. Now we'll go find that product. Here's our color-coded plastic beads. And now, if we want to change the definition of this product, we're going to go up here to the Edit as a Draft button, and we're going to click on that. As soon as we do, we'll notice that all our attributes have become unshaded, meaning that we can change the value inside it. So I could change color-coded plastic beads just to say beads. And I should also note that I can have many different values for many different languages in the system. So I could go up here to my locale and I could change from English to French. And we'll notice that our product attribute changes to a value in French. And I can also add a new value here for this definition in French. So I could write beads in French. Now the other value hasn't gone away. It's just that I have a value for this in English and I have another value for that in French. Let's also change the categories. So I could go into my categories, I could go to GPC, and I could bring this down and say, let's add this to our healthcare segment. And I could also go to associations and make an association of a type substitution to another product. Now this may not make any sense, but I could go up here and I could find my gloves and I could associate my beads with my gloves. And we'll confirm that. Now let's save those changes, and we'll do that by clicking Save Draft. And what we've done so far is we've created a draft of this product, of those changes, and if we go to our products and our color-coded plastic beads, we'll see that none of the changes that we've made have actually affected our product catalog. It's all still the old values. But we have created this draft, and we can go see the changes that we've made by clicking Edit Existing Draft, and here's some of our changes. In order for this draft to affect our product catalog, we need to approve it. And we can do that by going to Activity and going to Drafts. And here's the draft that we've made for this product. And if we expand this, we can see here's our changes. We've changed color-coded plastic beads to beads. Over on the right, you'll notice that we have a couple different buttons. One for approving a product draft and another for rejecting that product draft. And you'll notice that as the family planning user, I am not able to click on either one of these. And this is part of the permission system that PCMT has added that is useful in that it allows many different people to be responsible for ensuring product data quality. Some that can only see products, others that can propose changes through drafts, and finally those that are able to approve or reject those proposed changes. And these permissions are very flexible so that people can be grouped by product categories. Perhaps you want groups to be by types of products, such as family planning, or by product sourcing, etc. It's completely configurable. So I'm going to log out as the family planning user, and I'm going to log back in as the admin so that I can approve that draft. We'll go to Activity and to Drafts. Here's our draft again, and now I have the ability to approve the draft or reject it. So let's go ahead and click Approve. We'll make sure that we want to approve it. And now once we approve that draft and we go to Products, here's our beads, and we can see that our changes have taken effect. Another easy feature that we've added in PCMT version 2 is the ability to click through on associations. So if I go to my associations from beads, I can click on my surgical gloves, and it will take me right to my surgical glove definition. In PCMT version 2, we've also added a new product attribute type called a table. And to find that, let's go in our demo data, let's go back to our products. We're going to go to the GDSN queue, because this is where we have demo data defined for this, and we'll just click on one of these. And we'll go to our attributes. And if we scroll down now, we'll find that this attribute has a table plugin installed. This is an open source table plugin, and we think it's useful for being able to show meta information in a table structure, such as packaging hierarchy. And so here you can now structure your attributes to also have this table information in it, and you can configure this table and rearrange the items in this table however you want.
Now, one of the most common things you'll need to do with PCMT is get product data into and out of the system. And these things are very configurable. So we have our imports, we have a whole number of imports in here. We have our exports, we have a number in here. And just to show how configurable these are, let's go look at the product models export. And if we click on the edit for this product models export, and we go to content, we can see that we can change which channel is exported, which locale, such as different languages, which attributes. Right now we only have 2 selected. We could go in here and click edit, and we could remove all of these or select a specific set of attributes. Whatever we want to do, we can do simply by dragging these over and rearranging their order over here. We also have a number of filters that we can apply to this export, such as family, a time condition, different categories, completeness, or even specific identifiers. Now those are our imports and our exports, and if we click save, we'll see that now we can run a job that will then create an Excel file for us in the background. And this will take a couple moments to complete, and it'll tell us that it's written all 145 products into an Excel file, and we can now download those Excel files. PCMT and Akinio also come with a full RESTful API, so that if you want to connect this system with other IT systems, you can do so by going to System and going to API Connections. You'll see our demo data comes with this example demo connection, and you can create new connections, new credentials for those connections, or revoke the existing one. And finally, let's take a look at how configurable PCMT is. Now, we've been noting that there's a number of different attributes in this system, and the demo data right now comes with 341 different attributes. At any time, you can go in, you can create a new attribute, such as dates, concatenated attributes, metrics, etc. And if you click on any of these and start creating that attribute, you'll see that you have a number of options for that attribute: the code, the type, which group it's in, if it needs to be a unique value, any values per channels, values per locales, usable in a grid, locale specific, and you can even give validation parameters such as max characters, or even a validation rule such as email, regular expressions, URLs, etc. So this is very configurable and helps you with your data quality. You can also put in label translations for different languages you have configured, as well as description translations which show up underneath the attribute to help guide people through entering in quality data. You can also configure your attribute groups, and here we have a number defined. As we were talking about, we were showing all of the different categories, and all of these are configurable, so we could look at product sourcing and add new suppliers, etc. We have a number of families that are defined, and you could create new families. These are how the attributes are structured for each type of product that you have in the system. We'll skip over some of these, but you can also define association types. We saw those: packaging, hierarchy, substitution. You can create new association types. It's very simple. And you can activate and deactivate different currencies, different locales, and even different channels, such as LMIS or GDSN or product catalog. And you can create new ones of these if you want. And then finally, we'll look at the different user settings that you can configure. So you can see that you can give a user account to every person in your organization. You can group those people into different roles, which controls their different rights in the system. And you can also add those people into different user groups. And new in PCMT version 2 is you can use those user groups, as we saw earlier, to control access to different product categories through these permissions here, and you can add these different user groups in as you need. So this has been the demo for PCMT version 2, and I want to say thank you.
Thanks, Josh, for sharing that. We got a bunch of good questions in the chat, so maybe we will dive in with some of those. I'm going to start with the ones that were the most specific about the demo, Josh, you just showed, and maybe you can answer each of these. And then there was also a generic question about what are the costs involved in setting up a PCMT. Maybe we'll save that for the Q&A at the end. So I'm going to start first with Trisha's question. When you were showing the associations between like gloves and beads, Trisha's question is, there didn't appear to be a reverse association between those two products. do associations have to be defined each way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes through Akeneo, the base feature that comes through Akeneo, essentially, yes, you have to define the association each way. And that's because you can configure, that drop down, like what kind of association is this? Is it a packaging hierarchy association or a substitution association? And so right now, you don't, for all of those different types that you could configure, you wouldn't automatically want it to be bidirectional. And one of the things that we have in the PCMT backlog is to give a little bit more information when you're setting up those different types of associations to say, do you want this to be automatically bidirectional? If you associate these two things, should they reference each other? Or should they be one way, unless you specifically say they are, bidirectional? So right now, that's how it is. It does it one way. It's kind of the basic Akeneo product. And then we have a thing that we would like to add to it, which would be to give some more options so that you could say, if you do this, will it be automatically bidirectional, or should it stay as it is?
Okay, thanks. That's a great question. And Tricia, if that didn't answer your question, feel free to keep adding into the chat, or anyone. The next one I will go to in the chat, a question from Kolawole Falegajo. I hope I got your name okay. Your question is a good one. Is it possible to map and import legacy product database systems into this tool? And I know, Josh, that was one of the big areas you said was, a critical thing for version 2, especially in our thinking. You have to help people get a lot of different product catalog data, into this tool so you can make it easy to then start working with it, cleaning it up, mapping it together, and connecting it. So is it possible, or how is it possible to map and import legacy product databases into the tool, Josh?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we started from Akeneo, from this base product, the community edition of this product, is that it has a really strong feature set for getting data in and out of the system. And if you have a legacy database, there's lots of different legacy databases. There's lots of different databases, and if you might be moving away from them or not, you can call them legacy. But the key for pretty much all those databases is that there's always a way to import or export into some sort of comma separated file, or just tab separated file, just essentially a CSV type file. Get that file into something that looks like or get that database into something that looks like a spreadsheet. And then from there, PCMT can import those. And what it gives you when it imports those is the ability to configure your import so that it matches that file. So you don't have to do a whole lot. There's a lot of different variables that could be in there, but in general, you don't have to do a whole lot of configuring to just to try to pull that information out of the file. So generally what you would go through is you would set up, you'd make your attributes in PCMT match kind of the columns that you have in your database, those attributes, and then you'd export all those to a comma separated file, to a CSV. And if you do need to do any sort of cleanup, you can then do it in that spreadsheet essentially. And then you can then export, or then you can import that spreadsheet into PCMT, and everything should line up, and you'll have all of your products defined that way. Hopefully that helped answer the question.
Great. And one last question here about the demo, and then we'll move on with some sort of country national product catalog topics. On the demo, Zafar Yuldashev asks, thanks for presenting version 2. Does the system allow several permission levels? And I know, Josh, one of the things in the demo that's new in version 2 was those more granular permissions, thinking that in country supply chains, different groups of people might be responsible for different products or entering different sets of data into one, country catalog. So I know you showed a bit of that in the demo, Josh, but could you be sort of really clear on a summary here for Zafar Yuldashev? Does this allow several permission levels? Exactly, what kinds of permissions are now possible?
Yeah, yeah. What we have now is very flexible, and you can give really fine-grained access to the type of actions that can happen on a product. And that is all through how you can configure basically two things. We saw kind of the roles, so you can put people into different roles and you can say, oh, can you edit a product? Can you approve drafts? You know, those sorts of things. But then you can also revisit a lot of those same permissions and how a product is grouped into different categories, and then how your users are assigned capabilities on those categories. So if you have a category that's something like, you know, malaria products or something like that, you can say, okay, this group of users is able to view those products, just view them. These other users can edit those products. And then this final set of users can actually go through and review the proposed changes and either approve or reject those changes. And you can mix and match. So you can have people that are able to perhaps approve but not delete products or something like that. And you can assign a lot of different levels to your users and their products.
Great. So yeah, much more granular permissions than the Akeneo, you know, community edition, than the kind of open source. Akeneo comes with the PCMT open source tool, adds those granular permissions. So we think that'll be super important for country setups with lots of different stakeholders who should have different levels of access. Thanks. Well, there's a couple more questions in the chat that I'm going to save till the Q&A at the end. A good question from Joe Shobi we won't forget, and that first question about cost that we won't forget either. But I want to make sure we get time to hear from some of the countries. So we wanted to just informally amongst us have some updates from countries that are using this tool. I'll quickly summarize, and then I don't know who all managed to join today, like perhaps Inez or Vincent from the Rwanda PSM. If you're on, you're one of the people I'm hoping might share an update. Looks like Vincent is actually on in the chat. That's great. Swaroop Jayaprakash is also here to share some quick updates from the sort of the PSM DC side, and give an overview of some activities. So I think I'll probably call on Swaroop first, but actually anyone from, you know, that Rwanda group or Malawi, other countries like Ethiopia, if Al or any of that team managed to join, we'll sort of have an informal community update where I'd love for everybody to take a couple minutes and just share out some of how the tool is helping build national product catalogs and use GS1 standard identifiers. First, I think I'll turn to Swaroop and from PSM and let you give us a bit of a summary of these national product catalog efforts. Swaroop.
Thanks, Brandon. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. So just to give you a quick update overview of how countries have been using PCMT, we have an activity for this fiscal that is basically it's termed as National Product Catalog. The idea is to build an authoritative source of GS1 item master data that can be used by various supply chain systems within the country. And also, I saw a question about linking existing product IDs or legacy IDs with GTINs. So the idea is this system would help in that linkage, and also a tool that will help integrate with GDSN in the future whenever the countries are ready, as well as the manufacturers have GTINs for all their products. So that was the idea of the National Product Catalog, and we're planning to implement it in a phased manner. The first phase, the scope is to collect all GS1 based data and then map it with country IDs, and then slowly expand that set of data and ultimately integrate with GDSN. Now, while NPC is as an activity focuses on the system part, the process, as well as the data, The idea is that it aligns with GS1 standards methodologies across identify, capture, share, and use. So we want to make sure that this system helps capture and link GTINs with country product IDs, and also becomes an authoritative source for all other systems within that country. And also having that data should help leverage GTINs on GS1 barcodes on cases, pallets, or inner packs. And at the same time, if all systems within the country are using the same identifier for the product, while it is also mapped to country specific product IDs, it promotes interoperability. So that was the idea. And ultimately to help end-to-end traceability through the use of GTINs. So that's how it aligns with GS1 standards. As a tool for NPC, so we're doing this initiative across Ethiopia, Malawi, and Rwanda in this fiscal. The tool that has been selected for NPC is PCMT. And as I earlier mentioned, the objective is to implement this in a way that this tool can help organize GS1 item master data and also link it with existing product IDs within those countries, because we didn't want to disrupt the existing processes, transactions that use established product identifiers. So there is also an effort to map GTINs as we collect with country-specific product IDs. The key use cases for us in using this tool, PCMT tool, is to help promote interoperability across all supply chain, public health supply chain systems within the country. We're also targeting to build a mobile app that can help scan GTINs and link with the NPC database, and not only pull GS1 based data, but also country specific context like country identifiers, and if there's any attributes specific to the country as well. And as an extension to the mobile app, we're also thinking of, since the mobile app would be extracting GS1 information as well as country identifiers linked to the GTIN, we could use the product country specific product ID that gets extracted based on the GTIN in processes such as receiving or shipping. So these are the three main use cases that we are planning to use. And if Ines, Vincent, if they want to add more from Rwanda's perspective, or if any other countries are like Malawi or Al from Ethiopia are present, they can also provide an update. Thanks, Brandon. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Swaroop, very much. For that helpful overview. And yeah, I think each of those three countries, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Malawi, have slightly different processes or goals or different, steps along the journey. But all of them have some of those those common goals about building a catalog database with GS1 identifiers, including barcodes. And so yeah, I would love to hear Vincent or Ines, if from the Rwanda PSM side, you might be able to give a quick update on, from your perspective, how this is going.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Hi, team. Thank you so much, and thank you, Swaroop. So for Rwanda, we already selected the PCMT as a tool to be used to harmonize the product identification mapped with the global standards, GTNs. So we have already installed the PCMT version 1 in our servers. As he said, also we have the team from Ministry of Health working hand in hand together to ensure the implementation is going well. So we have already started collecting the GTNs from the warehouse from the packaging of the product. So using the barcode scanner and the mobile application from GS1, we have already collected the product for malaria and the family planning. The good news, we have seen 72% of the product we scanned had the GTNs, and we are using the PCMT also to do mapping and also store those standardized data. So once we finally customize the PCMT, we'll be able to upload the standard data already collected into the production. So, and also it is good also to have the version 2 for PCMT, and hopefully will be one to consider during the implementation. So that's what I can share for now. And we are now in the process of also hiring technical resources to manage NPC. The application are ongoing, and hopefully in 3 or 4 months we'll be able to roll out the systems in support from you, Brandon.
Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, thanks for the update. That's great to hear. And, you know, this gets to that earlier question, maybe real quick. There was a question about what does it cost to set up the PCMT? I think now's a good time to answer. You know, I think you've heard, really the costs are maybe to host on a server like Vincent described in Rwanda,
Yes.
you know, the cost of a server and hosting, but also you could, you know, host it in the cloud and sort of pay for hosting. And some people like the Global Family Planning Van pay Village Reach to help host the PCMT and keep the software up to date. So it's different, you know, different choices there. But I think a lot of the effort is really the people time, like you've said, working with the ministry or the central medical stores to pull together the existing product data that does exist and really clean that data. So I don't think I could tell you just that there's a set cost, you know, that would be the same in every place. It really is, you know, this has been maybe a 6-month effort so far in like Rwanda or Ethiopia or Malawi. You know, it's really the people time to get together and harmonize your product catalogs and introduce barcodes and things. Vincent, I don't know if you had more to add there about what, you know, what controls what the costs are.
So for that one, I think it will depend on the technical resources we have. But so far we have the technical team from regulatory authority, central medical store. So what we are doing now, we are getting the master data from our current system we are using to ensure there is no duplication, and also working with the program manager, who are the people who are managing the program like malaria and family planning. So we are about to start that activity, and I cannot tell you the length of or the period where it will end, but we will put our effort and see if we can finalize that list soon. But we break that activity into phases. One will be focusing on the public, and then after we will also attempt the private sector also. I don't know if I have captured the question well and also answered well.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And so, yeah, I agree. Costs really depends on the people, the resources involved. And I'm sure you could talk more to like the PSM country office or some of the folks on today's webinar if you want to talk more about costs or help plan a project to do this kind of work. So I want to go to any of the other countries just in case Al or any of the team from Ethiopia is on. If you want to come off mute, or Daniel or any of the PSM Malawi team. I wasn't sure for sure on the participants list if either of them might be here and wants to provide a short update from the Ethiopia or Malawi efforts to build national product catalogs. You could just come off mute if you did manage to join us today. Okay, I wasn't sure, but wanted to make sure we would give them a chance if they did manage to join. So yeah, as Swaroop had said, each of those countries does have active work like this underway. And so I want to move on, and there's still a lot of questions in the Q&A that I want to hit. But just one last chance in case anyone from Malawi or Ethiopia were here before we move on.
Brandon, this is Abara from Malawi office.
Welcome, yes.
I think Swaru has already provided the high-level updates of what has been done in Malawi. So in Malawi, the data collection effort has been outsourced to Village Reach, where they host the PCMT as well as do the actual data collection. So far, the data has been collected from warehouses in Lilongwe, and we have captured about 45 GTINs. And there are products which are not found at the central level, but are available at facility. These are something that we are working on currently to go out to the field and collect the GTINs. And this is already underway. The facilities have been identified, and the people who go to the respective fields has already been identified, and we will be able to complete that by the end of next week. So once this is complete, then we are going to do the mapping based on the data that we are collecting from MOH, and that's the status where we are in Malawi. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Really good to hear. Well, we have a couple more questions in the chat I want to get to as well. I think Violet had a good question about what do you do when products don't have GTINs? And Swaroop, you gave a good answer there in the chat that there are two families, one focused entirely when you do have GTINs and sourcing those, but the other family in the database is just mapping the country products to GTIN identifiers, and the product IDs find the associated GTINs they will get mapped to, and it sounds like if there are items without a GTIN that you can still capture those and you could map them later to a GTIN. So that was a great answer in the chat. But there were a couple questions we didn't get to, and I think, Josh, maybe some of these are for you. First, I will go to the Joe Shobi question here. Joe had a great question. Can you use the import function for changes to an existing product where the changes must be workflow approved before they update the database? Josh, did you want to talk about that when you're pulling in other people's changes, but you still want a workflow to approve them before you accept those updates?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the short answer is yes. Anything that goes through that import section in the system, any change really to a product goes through the draft approval system, and then you can control that draft approval system through the new permission system. But one of the new, and we had the draft approval system in version 1. We've made a lot of minor tweaks in version 2 to make it a little easier to work with. And one of those minor tweaks is that on the draft approval screen, before you could do certain bulk approval options, and now you get more, so you just have more options to bulk approve things. And also new is a bulk reject. So if you have a lot of changes that you just imported from a spreadsheet that you realized, oh, that's not what I want to do, I want to make a tweak before I actually make these take effect in the system, you can select all those drafts, bulk reject them, and then just go through the import process again. So it makes the turnaround time a lot quicker, a lot easier. Less commitment, essentially. But yes, everything does go through the approval system.
Okay, great. Thanks, Josh. There's also a question here from Collins, kind of a two-part question. Josh, did you want to summarize the question and help answer Collins?
Yes. So Collins, I think I have your question correctly. And so if I were to summarize it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the first part of the question is it possible for a manufacturer to log in directly and add product master data? And the answer is yes. The new permission system allows you to give a user account to manufacturers, to different people at different manufacturers, and say, you can add a new product into the system in these specific places. And that really gives you the ability to say, to make sure that people are putting things in the right place, and do those sorts of things. And then I think the second part of your question is, are there quality checks within PCMT to ensure that the master data coming from the manufacturer is captured correctly? And really, yes, there's two basic ways that this is, that the system helps you do this. The first are the automated quality checks, and we saw a little bit of that in the demo. Like you can set up data validation rules on attributes, and those really help the system help the user while they're entering that data. So like as the manufacturer is entering that data directly, it will tell them, does this match the rules or not? So that's kind of the automated checks. And then the second piece is really the review system. So these are kind of the person-oriented tools that as the manufacturer is changing a product or adding a new product, the review system can notify a catalog owner, someone else, maybe not from the manufacturer, could be from the manufacturer, depends on how you want to set it up, allows them to see, oh, there's a new product, or these are the changes to a product, and then see all the details of what changed. And manufacturers can even go in there and I believe add comments, I think we still have that, to say, here's why I'm changing this, this is what this means, those sorts of things. And so yeah, if I got your question correctly, then yes, it really does help. The new permission system helps manufacturers be able to log in, add products. And there's also at least two types of checks, the automated checks and also the manual kind of review checks to help other people in the system make sure that everything is going in correctly.
Thanks, great. So yeah, Collins, you could have a manufacturer log in with limited permissions. There could be those quality checks like Josh described, and then even your human review. So I think all those things are possible. And thanks, Josh, for answering that really good question from Collins. I also wanted to make sure we get to Vincent's question. This may be the last one we have time for, though people could keep posting in the chat, and we could stay on after the end to answer more for those who can stay after. But I want to make sure we get to Vincent's question. In PCMT version 2, he asks, are families created based on pharmaceutical classifications? So Josh, maybe you could explain a bit about families and the different classifications.
Yeah, so I of course have to qualify this with, I am not an expert in pharmaceutical classification systems. I just know that they're very complex. But PCMT and Akinio, like out of the box, you could set it up so that it enforces none of those, pharmaceutical, it doesn't come, natively with like pharmaceutical classifications in it. The demo data, which is also what we would propose that you could start with, does come with some of those classifications in it. Like it comes with, well, I don't think ATC is a classification system for that, but you could import, pharmaceutical classification systems into the system, and then have it actually use its rules to make sure that you're actually adding those products to the right categories and filling in the right fields. And we probably have to like walk through exactly you know, what that would look like. But the basics of it is you could have it both ways. You could have it either just say no, like you just enter in the products, you know, based on how you want it. Or you could say, here's the classification systems that I want you to follow, the pharmaceutical classifications, and then have some rules set up to make sure that people are actually adding things into the right categories. So I think that's the way that you would do it. But of course, we could always have a conversation about what do I not understand about pharmaceutical classifications, because I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, the tool PCMT is definitely very flexible. So you could break your families down any number of ways, and also allows multiple classifications. So even if one, you know, pharmaceutical classification standard is not the only one, if there's 2 or 3 or 4, or you also want to map things into the UNICEF catalog codes or the Global Fund, you know, ordering codes or other systems, PCMT definitely allows multiple classifications at once. So Vincent, hopefully that was helpful, and we could stay on after and chat more. Really quickly, I wanted to just make sure people know how to learn more or get involved. And then we'll wrap up here at the end of the hour. So we've released version 2.0. We're going to keep making updates to it for the next few months with even some more features, and really continue being around to support countries who have questions, or if you want hosting, Village Reach can help provide hosting or just help provide answers about the PCMT. Here are some of the players who've been involved. So I'm Brandon, the program lead here, and Josh was our main presenter today, has been the architect and dev lead. And so you can reach us at that one address at Village Reach to contact all of us at the Village Reach PCMT group. But also huge thanks to Digital Square, to Global FP Van, and to the funders, USAID and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded this version 2 work to help with more country priorities. Huge thank you to them. And to find this information, there is a web page with sort of wiki and docs. There's of course the source code and the developer resources and this email address. So that's how to find us. Thanks for joining this PCMT webinar. We will stay on the line just a couple more minutes if people have more follow-up questions, but this is the end of the official event, and we'll stop the recording here and share it out for everybody. So thanks to everyone who gave some updates and has been part of this work. And we wish everyone well on both during COVID and this difficult year, but also well as you work on this product catalog data and getting common identifiers, GS1 or even barcoding, and consistent identifiers to start connecting up systems and allowing sharing of product data and interoperability. So thanks for joining us on this journey, and take care and be safe. Thanks all. And Josh and I are still on the line if other people add questions to the chat here as people are leaving, but have a good rest of your evenings or rest of your Tuesdays, and take care.
Hi, Brandon.